And good afternoon, everyone. Justin, Francesca, Lawrence, thank you for being here early. Let's just wait for a few more peeps to arrive. And so, meanwhile, if you guys haven't joined the FB group yet, there's an FB group for the class. The link is in Big Sky, but I'll also post it here. Uh, and all right, so welcome everybody. And thank you for being here early in our first class for project management. So please do make sure you are in the right class. And, and so if you're here right now, can you guys kindly put yes in chat? Ah, all right. Thank you all for being attentive in this very first day of class. Um, so it's been a while since I'm going to be in a class with face-to-face sessions. So next week we'll have our face-to-face sessions. We'll have it both on Tuesday and Thursday. So that's the first order of business. Yeah. Thank you guys for being active in the chat. Um, so since we're now in full hybrid mode, as far as CSB goes, we'll be having our face-to-face classes. I'll be having my first face-to-face classes in a long, long while, at least for CSB, starting next week. So we'll be having alternate weeks of online classes and then face-to-face classes. Uh, the first week, as I was advised by the program, is strictly online so that everyone can get their bearings and get used to the new term. And I haven't actually introduced myself, so some of you most likely have had me as a teacher at some point in time. But for those who haven't, again, for those who have but haven't or is trying to remember, yan. I'm Ronald Ramos. I've been a part-time faculty in Benilde since 2008. And I've taught a lot of different subjects here. I started out teaching Java in CSP. Uh, then I did a lot of mobile apps development, particularly in the Android platform. Did also some iOS application development. Moved to data privacy, as well as other security courses. And this is actually my first time teaching project management in the context of IT projects, and hopefully it will be a good learning experience, not just for you guys, but for me. And because of the part-time face-to-face thing, I hope it becomes a really fruitful one. I haven't done face-to-face in a long while. So, so I'm somewhat excited for that. So to start it off, some of you have already done it. There's a Mentimeter on the screen. Oh, and um, standard operating procedure. I am going to record all of our synchronous sessions so that those who are here who may want to review it can review it later, and those who are not can also review it later. So every time we have a sync session, I'll be recording it. I'll be posting a link to it later on in our class Big Sky page. And so if you guys haven't gone through the Big Sky page for IS project management, there's a section there where there will be links for our recorded videos. Um, so for those who've started the Mentimeter, thank you very much. For those who haven't, you can go to menti.com and then enter the code 7251121 or you can use the link that's in chat. So dun sa mga gustong mag-click lang, you can use the link that I posted in chat. And while folks are looking at that, so we have about 20 plus participants right now. I've seen that about 16 people have already put in their thoughts with regards to a word describing project management. Um, it's great to see the biggest word in the cloud is planning. And then after that, it's communication. And after that, we have, oh, that's great. Actually have leadership and then communication and organization. And then scattered among the rest, you have process, you have organization, strategic, production, objectives, delegation, productivity, coordination, schedule, synergy, and a bunch of others that are all related to each other and happy for me and good for you guys is related to project management. So to those 18 who currently put in their thoughts, thank you very much. Dun sa mga hindi pa, of course, you can put in your inputs and I'll look at them later. But again, for those who've already done it, thank you. Thank you very much. So all the materials that I'll be showing is also in Big Sky. So in case, again, you want to review what we've done in class, you can just go to Big Sky. So you can go to Big Sky and then go to the content section. And then you see here a weekly breakdown of generally what we're supposed to discuss for that week. So there's a section for video recording. So that's blank right now because this is our first class video. And then part of our discussion for week one will be here, including the PowerPoint that you'll see me use later on, as well as some of the videos that we'll use in our discussion. So as we go along the way, I will definitely giving more giving more details as to what we'll cover throughout the course of the term. Also, And so, for those who've been my students before, you guys more or less are familiar with how I run the class. So as I mentioned, I'm a part-time faculty for SMIP, particularly the IS program. This isn't my day job. And so I'm a full-time employee for Smart Communications Incorporated. So dun sa mga naka-Smart na SIM, thank you guys for patronizing Smart. So part of my salary comes from those, of course, who have Smart subscriptions. Yeah, so that's why you won't see me on campus during the day. My normal work hours are 8:30 to 5:30. So nasa Smart ako nun. Some of you might wonder, sir, kung nasa Smart ka, um, paano yung face-to-face classes natin? Well, I've made concessions at work so I'll be able to attend our face-to-face classes, which would start next week. And will proceed every other week. So it will be alternating online and offline sessions. So yun. All of my lecture materials are on Big Sky, and that will be true for this class too. I'll try to give you guys um, ano to? Productive work. For the most part, the class will most likely have about 10 homeworks and 10 other activities plus a few quizzes, a midterm, and final exam. Those are the stuff you need to work on during the term. And they will be posted in the Dropbox section of Big Sky. Yeah. So, since we do have face-to-face and project management is a subject that requires a lot of hands-on activities, not particularly lab-based, I'll try to keep those activities um, during the second meeting of the week. So normally for online, what I try to do before, if we meet twice a week, was to discuss stuff in the first meeting, which in our case is Tuesday, and then have some work done on the second day. So I'll try to keep that for the face-to-face scheduling. Um, if I don't need to eat up the entire time, I won't, especially for online, especially if I give you guys things to do. So you have more time to do it. And pretty much that's it for the class itself. Our class will be held in the new atrium building. So just put a yes or no if you guys have been to the new atrium. Yan. I've only seen it. Hindi pa ako nakapunta dun sa bagong building. But from my understanding, all IS classes are now held at the atrium. Actually, haven't even asked if that's the official name. But next week, when we do face-to-face, we'll be in that particular building already. And questions so far? Anyone? Questions, clarifications? All right. And so thank you, Francesca. And so thank you again for everyone who contributed to the Mentimeter. All the words, again, with planning, organization, and leadership being the top words there, are actually relevant to project management. And once my slide decides to show up, okay, so very quickly, yes or no? in your own personal experience, have you run a project? And so yes or no lang. Looking at all your experiences, have you run a project? And so very quickly, we have a couple of answers. And so a few no's. Yes, si Raven says no. Uh, sige, Miguel, are you there? So Miguel, Luis.
Yes po, sir.
Miguel, can you tell us ano yung project mo when you said yes?
One of the kasi sir, I was part of the Association of Information Management, yung parang AIM po, yung parang organization po ng IS program. And back then
Yes.
nung when I was a fresh, I was essentially a project manager for I was a project manager for two events nun. One was You Can Do It, and I was one of the project managers assigned to that. And essentially, I was responsible for delegating kung ano yung mga tasks needed namin. Like for example, I want you to create a video for this. I want you to create a report ng mga ganito ganyan. Essentially yun po yung ginawa ko. But when it came to the other event that I handled, which is Samsung Developer Workshop, since I was the main project manager of that, I was responsible for establishing communications with the external partners, essentially with the Samsung team. And I was also responsible for coordinating the people, managing yung script, seeing the flow of the event, so on and so forth, and keeping my superiors updated with regards to the progress of the event itself.
Ayos. Thank you very much, Miguel. Yeah. Especially since some of the stuff that I wanted to get out from that question was actually in Miguel's answer. So when Miguel said yes to the question, have you ever run a project? It was the textbook definition of project management. There was an event, he had a particular task, and in that particular task, he had to do some organization, basically delegating tasks to other people, and keeping to a goal, which would be to help make the event successful. So very good yun, in the sense that in the technical definition of what a project is, it really fits with what Miguel did, and not just once, but twice. Okay. So before I go to the no's, I would like to preface this with there's actually no wrong or right answer if you say yes or no. Probably wrong in the sense of project as it's technically defined, but I'll talk more about that. So I'd like to ask Nicole Raven Pascal, are you there?
Yes po, sir.
Yan. So why did you say no to if you've ever run a project or become a project manager?
Parang wala po kasi akong experience din na mag-lead sa mga like project like events, mga ganun.
Okay. Sige. So that still fits with the if we were boxing in what project management meant, and that's also why I said there's no right or wrong answer. So in the perspective of Nicole and then probably si Teo Marie Franco Cruzcha din, it's the same thing. So I'll ask you a second question, Nicole. Have you ever been asked to fix something at home? Meron ka bang, may inutos ba sa isa bahay na paayos mo like sirang TV or sirang ref or anything like that?
Meron naman po.
Yan. And how did you go about ano yung pinaayos sa'yo, for example?
Yung, ano ba? Parang wala akong maisip bigla.
Pero meron,
biglang nagba-blank yung utak.
Meron, di ba?
Pero for sure naman po meron yun.
Oo, meron. And you found a way to actually accomplish yung pinagawa sa'yo. Tama,
Yes.
tama. Yeah.
Opo.
So, thank you for that, Nicole. So, some of you might be wondering, ba't tinanong ni Sir yun? Because project management, if we go beyond yung technical definition niya, actually applies to a lot of things we do in life. Yan, from picking a school to go to in college, to just simple tasks at home na nasira yung isang gripo and your mom or your dad asks you, Nicole, ikaw nga bahalang magpagawa dyan. Ito yung pera, pero ikaw yung bahala. And you probably look for a plumber, a tubero, and then si tubero sasabihin, ito po yung kailangan gawin, ito po yung mga gamit. Gusto niyo po ba kayo na yung bumili or ako na yung bumili? So on and so forth until you actually accomplish what you need to accomplish. So in a lot of aspects, that particular project management is also project management. So we don't come into project management blind. We may not know the technical definitions, we may not know the uh, process, the formal processes involved. But at one point in our life, we have experience doing project management, whether it's with our siblings, kung panganay kayo at may mga kapatid kayo, or sa sarili nyo lang, yun, project. Uh, I want to decide what school I want to go to. That's a project in and of its own. And if we look, so thank you, Nicole, uh, for your answer. Thank you also, um, thank you also, Miguel. Yeah. Thank you, Miguel, for sharing your thoughts. And so when it comes to delivering a successful project, first we look at how projects get started. So a project is basically when someone has a problem to solve or an opportunity to pursue. And so dalawa lang lagi yan. We undertake a project because someone needs something solved or we're looking at some opportunity that needs to be taken uh, in front of us. Yeah. Problem needs to be solved. Sira yung gripo sa banyo. Sira yung shower ko. That's a project. An opportunity to pursue. I could lower my electricity cost if I installed solar cells at home. As a project manager, your work will always be about balancing the scope, the time, resources, and budget you've been given. So, I've been in the IT industry since 1996. Yeah. Yun ang i-compute kung gano'ng katagal. And yun, for those who don't know it yet, my degree actually isn't IT related. I have a biology degree. I thought I wanted to be a doctor, but somewhere along the way meaning I was picking a med school, and then some little voice in my head said, maybe I should explore some other thing. And that other thing became IT. So ever since I turned my back on med school, uh, I've gotten this IT career. Hasn't been that bad. It allowed me to travel the world because I spent uh, a few years in Accenture as a consultant. I spent a large part of that in Chicago as a consultant. Then I came back home, did some freelance, spent a lot of my years in Smart starting in 2007 until now. I'm still with Smart, and also found out that I like to teach, so I teach part-time. Yan, so what I've learned is whether it's in real life or it's with your career, you will experience being a project manager. It's always about scope, which is the limits of what your project will accomplish. Yeah. So if I add solar cells to my house, ilang kilowatt yung gusto kong ma-produce so that it gets defrayed in my current electricity costs. How long does it take? What resources do I have? And I have actual budget for it. Um, we used to play in a band, and when we were considering sets for a concert, it's the same thing. Do we have enough practice time to learn this new song, or lumang songs lang gagamitin natin? Life is about project management, and those who realize this become really good project managers, and vice versa. Then some people, when they get into the project manager role, uh, suddenly gets better organized at life kasi na-apply nila yung project manager know-how nila in real life. So entering this course, I'm actually glad because in the Mentimeter, you guys have a big idea already of what project management is. But even without that, whether this is your first time hearing about it, or like see Nicole and Tio Marie who said no, um, so yung no na yun, I'll just take it as no to project management in the formal setting of being a project manager na may event or meta and stuff like that. But again, all of you most likely will have done some similar role as a project manager has done. So you don't need to know anything when you enter this class. Well, except for knowing Microsoft Word and your own life experiences. So this course is only an introduction to project management. We'll go through the basics so that everyone here hopefully comes out with it will have a little knowledge of what's involved in managing a project. So questions so far? Questions, guys? Wag po kayong mahiyang magtanong. When you do have questions, please feel free to put them in chat kung medyo shy kayo. If not, you can turn on your mic. Also, turning on your mic during the sync sessions, I personally believe is preparation for face-to-face. Yan. Kasi sa face-to-face, I can get to see you guys in person and I can pick out people to speak out. Yan. Sa online, medyo lax ako sa ganyan. Kasi I always have in my mind that the connections are not ideal. There are distractions all around. Like my own room, my own home office is a mess. Nakakalat yung mga toys ko because I haven't used this room in a few weeks because we were asked to go back to the office, so wala na akong work from home na setup, which meant I haven't been inside this room in the few weeks that I've been working in the office. So, nakakalat yung mga gamit ko. And if I move in the wrong way, ma-trigger ko yung avalanche of, I have a lot of Lego in the room na hindi nakaayos. Anyway, yan. So let's look at what a project is, whether it's a technical project or you're running an event or you're just doing home improvement. A project is a temporary endeavor that has a unique goal and usually a budget. So if we take a look at the critical points of this statement. So if you look at it, it looks like a very simple definition. It's a temporary endeavor that has a unique goal and usually has a budget. So bakit siya temporary? Kasi if you're working already, you have stuff called BAU or business as usual. These are the everyday things that you do at work to say that you're working. Yan. But sometimes, there are things that have a finite goal and a deadline. And those things are what you consider project. So it's a temporary endeavor. So daily, what do I do at Smart? Right now, daily means that I watch over the IT training curriculum of IT tips of people in the IT group for Smart and PLDT. So that's my business as usual. If someone has a training request, I process it. Um, If there are new stuff on the market, I suggest it to the people and see if they need it. I evaluate training vendors and the like. So business as usual. What are my current projects? Um, I've been asked to streamline the process for government compliance training. So I've been asked to do that. And it's a project because right now there are government compliance trainings happening, okay, but we want to streamline it. We don't want what's happening right now where we just get surprised that there's a request for the training and it's not cheap. There's money involved. So we want to streamline it. We want to make it a more formal process. Uh, Hopefully by the end of the year. Yan. So yun yung deadline ko. It's temporary. Once the project is done, things should be better. The process should be better. And that's my goal, to make the process for government compliance training happen. Does it have a budget? Actually, this is actually an example of a project na walang budget. And actually, its goal is to reduce the budget of other connected items like government compliance training. So again, if we look at the definition, it's pretty simple. A project, a temporary endeavor that has a unique goal and usually a budget. So ano yung may mga budget? Home improvement projects have a budget. I want to make my room better. That has a deadline. It's a temporary endeavor because once the project is done, you have hopefully a better looking room. And there's a budget you're working with. You go like, I have 50,000 pesos to make my room look better. Okay, or I can say that I'll start saving up money so I can buy a better ukulele. Although this one is good enough. And I don't have a band anymore, so there's no point in getting better equipment. But if I did, then that project would have a deadline in the future because mag-iipon akong pera. In the course of saving up the money for a professional ukulele, for example, I might decide I take up side hustles. I take up other jobs aside from my current work so that I get extra money for a new ukulele. So that is a project. Questions, comments, or clarifications? So again, guys, huwag kayong mahiya sa chat. If there are questions or clarifications, please do tell me. And kung wala naman, feel free to tell me too. So yun lang yung struggle with online sessions. I don't have the physical connection with you guys. It has not changed since the pandemic. There are pros to this online thing, but there are also cons to it. The biggest one for me is not seeing you guys. And it's not just because I want to see your faces, but because if I'm with you guys in a physical classroom, it's easier to prompt people to answer. Yan. So temporary endeavor has a unique goal and has a budget. That leads us to what is project management. And people say that people get into project management positions because they're good at making things happen. But it's not just about your organizational skills and supervising others. It also means applying a lot of different things, knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to achieve your project objectives. Yeah. It can be summed up by answering a few critical questions. What problem are you solving? How are you going to solve this problem? And then, what is your plan? And so yun lang, project management means that I'm trying to solve a problem, so I should be clear about that. What problem am I solving? I should also be very clear at how I'm going to solve this problem. And of course, if I know the how, then what's my plan to implement that? Um, one of the things that I used to like talking about, pero ngayon it just triggers a lot of stuff, was always the problem of educating the Filipino voters. Yan. So for the longest time, every time we get a crap leader, uh, ang matatalinong tao would blame the masses. They would blame the masses because they say, ay nako, yung mga botante natin hindi nag-iisip, mga botante natin, they just like popular people, yung mga artista, yung mga basketball player. So I always ask, what are we trying to solve? And they go like, yung mga botante natin, bobo sila. And I always go, hindi sila bobo. Because you're not looking at the root cause of the problem. So bakit hindi sila bobo? And I'm not using it as an excuse. I'm just saying that a lot of our voters have other things to worry about, that they don't bother anymore with a deep analysis of who they want to vote more. To simplify it, I always tell some of my friends in discussions like this, hindi ako mag-iisip kung sino yung iboboto ko. Kung yung ang susunod kong meal, yung lunch ko, yung dinner ko, hindi ko alam kung saan pa kukunin. If I don't know where I'm getting my next meal from, then wouldn't freaking care about thinking about who's the most qualified candidate out there. So what are we trying to solve? If we're trying to solve the voter problem, then you have to look deeper, because the root cause for that problem is probably the one that you want to solve, which affects the next question: how are you going to solve the problem? Politicians don't want voters educated, and people seem to want it. They don't organize enough. Which leads to the last question: what's the plan? Paano natin gagawin to? A lot of times, those questions only get a lot of discussion kasi may election ulit na mangyayari. But in between, which is when stuff should be done, no one does. So what's the plan? And if you're looking at things this way, then that is project management. You are basically answering 3 questions. What are we solving? How are we going to solve it? And what's our plan? How are we implementing the solution? So as a project manager, you use a wide variety of skills. When I was starting out my IT career, I was just a developer. So yun yung main role ko talaga, develop. But as I got more exposure in the field of IT, the farther I got away from programming. First, because my manager saw I could talk easily to non-tech people. So medyo napunta yung role ko doon. Ronald, you seem to have a talent for talking about technical things to non-technical people. I want you to do more roles facing the client. Eh nung una, ayoko nun. When introvert, I don't want to talk to people. I want to sit in front of my computer and code. Okay, but apparently, I have that skill. And that's also why I'm teaching in front of you guys. As my lola said, hindi siya makapaniwala na naging teacher yung apo niya dahil napakatahimik kong bata. But I always tell people, the new definition of an introvert is not that introverts don't want to speak up. It's because we only speak up when it's important for us. So nasa psychological na studies yan. Introverts do have the energy to speak in front of a lot of people publicly if they think that it's important enough for them. So what skills come to with becoming a project manager? You have your technical skills, especially if I'm leading an IT project. It helps a lot if I'm leading a group of developers, it helps a lot that I was a developer before. So, where does that help? It helps in the fact that hindi nila ako pwedeng bulahin ng mga technical mumbo-jumbo jargon to justify na, sir, dapat 3 weeks to instead of 2. I can compromise with them with regards to that. But it's not only the technical skills that are important. You must have problem-solving skills. If you hit a bump in the road, what do? How can you get the project to continue moving? Then yung last two are very people-centric. You have interpersonal skills and strong leadership. Yeah, excuse me. Interpersonal, because you will have to talk to people and not just talk with them. You have to work with them. I'm a very vocal person when it comes to projects. If I think something is unfair, I will talk about it. But when I was younger, I was very confrontational. Yan. As I got older, medyo na-refine ako, and I always try to be more peaceful in my approach. Interpersonal skills. If you're a project manager, you are in a position of leadership. You also have to be a strong leader. To be a good leader, if you are going to become a project manager. So, comes with a lot of skills, and most likely, um, Miguel earlier said yes, he had experience with project management. Malamang sa malamang, he will, if we were face to face, he'll nod if I ask him, Miguel, did you experience applying various skills when you were doing project management? So, minsan, kailangan diktador ka kasi wala na nakikinig. Minsan, para kang beauty queen, you have to put on your best smile and interact with everyone. And a bunch of other stuff. So as a project manager, especially for those here who are thinking that it's the role I want to do in the field of IT, and you don't need to be the best coder in the world, but you do need to understand what comes with being a developer. In that role, ano yung mga kailangan? You don't need to baby the developers. Okay? But you do need to understand them para madali silang pakiusapan. And also para wag ka nilang maloko in terms of setting schedules and deadline. Okay, so in the course of our classes, we'll be focusing on the waterfall project management life cycle. But we'll also be looking at agile because you guys are in an IT related course and the subjects are IT related. And if you get to work in the industry in the future, when you graduate, you decide, I want to really be in the IT industry, then you'll work with either of two approaches to projects, the waterfall model and agile. So the waterfall first. My 20 plus years of being in IT, the waterfall model has been the one model that's been used a lot in my projects. It's the most traditional approach to developing something. And nowadays, if it's a long-term project, siya yung ginagamit. So yun yung first clue nyo, especially for those taking notes. If you were asked what approach you need to use for a particular project, one of the first considerations is, how fast do you need this? If you tell me I have 1 year to do it, then most likely I look at the waterfall model for its implementation. And we can see from the image that's on the slide why it's called a waterfall. Because we proceed from the top going down. And each step is a phase in the cycle. So there are very distinct phases for waterfall. We'll get to see this or discuss this in other sessions later on, but it usually begins with analysis. Usually, it always begins with analysis, which starts with the problem. What's our problem? What can we do about it? Once those questions are answered, we proceed to the design. So now that we know what we need to solve, how will we solve it? And then we design it. Once the design is done, you have implementation. So I know my design already. I can start coding the system. Once the coding or implementation is done, I want to test it. And then we go to maintenance. So one after the other, going down, that's our waterfall. Pretty simple. There's a lot of complications inside each phase, and we will try to get through a more detailed look at each step during the course of the term. And so the other popular approach that we have in terms of project management is agile. And so unlike the waterfall, where you have 5 distinct phases going down, you'll see in agile, especially um, in this particular image, there are 3 circles flowing into each other. And then inside each circle are the same steps: plan, design, develop, test, deploy, review, and launch. Then you repeat it again: plan, design, develop, test, deploy, review, and launch. And again, plan, design, develop, test, deploy, review, and then launch. Paulit-ulit lang siya until, until we're told to stop. They are called sprints, and then in each sprint, you actually come out with a product. So why do we have multiple sprints in the life of the project? The multiple sprints represent either individual modules that we're building up, or it can also represent the improvement of the product, of course, across the lifetime of the project. So yun yung whole point niya. It's called agile because we are able to launch a product quickly, uh, and then after launching it, quickly evaluate what we did well and where we went wrong. And then we go to our next sprint to fix what we need to fix and come out with a better product. And so on and so forth until, nagme-maintain na lang tayo ng product. So, big differences: waterfall or 5 phases. At the very end, we have one hopefully great product. Agile, we are doing smaller phases with each sprint representing full product development. So we try to improve on the product during the duration of the project. So comparing the two, because sometimes people like to do a hybrid approach. When we're using the waterfall model, we define a specific goal or target. When we're doing agile, we are only defining a vision, an ideal of what we want to happen. When we're using traditional methods like the waterfall, we make plans to reach the target. For agile, there's a broad direction that gradually becomes more and more specific. As we go through our sprints, it becomes clear what we need to focus on. For traditional, it's about launching it at the very end of the cycle and then managing it. In agile, we learn and adapt. And then finally, for the waterfall, it's a focus on the target, while in agile, we evolve towards the target. So yun yung differences nila. And again, throughout the course of the term, we will get to see more about these two, but we'll be seeing more about the waterfall model. Yan. And last for today, um, I just like to highlight the fact that the organizational culture affects your project. So you guys most likely will not have seen that yet. But if you work for 20 or so years like me, there's a big effect on your projects when it comes to culture. So, mababaw lang na example. When I started in Accenture, it was then known as Anderson Consulting. Our dress code was suit and tie. Kasi consultants nga daw kami. So suit and tie, and it was irritating because I was a developer and it's hard to code na naka-suit ka. So my first 6 months with Accenture, there was a suit and tie. Then we had a client, si Harley Davidson. So yung big bikes, Harley Davidson. Macho culture, biker culture, so jeans, na may mga ripped na jeans pa, leather jackets and stuff like that. So when we started the project there, medyo may culture clash. We were in our suits and tie, and then Harley it being their corporate headquarters, mas casual yung attire nila, jeans and shirts. Punit pa minsan. So eventually, we were told as the project team to dress like our client. Kasi na-OP na kami. Kami lang yung naka-suit and tie. Sila hindi. So it's a very small look into how culture affects it. When we started dressing up like them, it was easier to work with them dun sa project na ginagawa namin. And that's a big part of project management too. Putting yourself in the context of the people you're working with. Okay, and like I said earlier, I don't really like to waste time if I think that it's enough. I want you guys to absorb more of what I've been talking about. And this is my last slide for today. We'll have a meeting again 2 days from now. Yan, sa Thursday, I'll see you guys again to continue our introduction to project management. Before I sign off for today, are there any questions? Questions, comments, clarifications, guys? On anything? Yan. So yeah, thanks Justin, Lance, Russell, Lawrence, Nicole, very well. I'll be posting in Big Sky what our room is in case you guys don't know it yet or just as a review. It will be in the atrium, which I've seen but I haven't really explored, so hopefully hindi ako mawala. Okay, but I'll see you all again. Go ahead, Lance.
Sir, sa Thursday po ba face-to-face?
Hindi. Every week tayo. So,
Okay po, sir. Thank you.
pag online tayo, like today, that means the whole week online tayo. So right now, pero thanks for the question, Lance. That reminded me of a couple of things. One, so just to emphasize, we'll alternate. So online and then face-to-face and then online. So that means next week, face-to-face tayo at the atrium. So for the most part, ganun yung cycle. In case I can't meet with you guys, I will post it in Big Sky because sometimes my 8 to 5 work does clash with the class schedule at certain points in time. Hindi ko maiiwasan. I will announce it as soon as I can. And also at sometime in June, I'll be out of the country. Pero mga 1 week lang yun. So it will most likely affect 1 day of our class or maybe 2. Pero i-announce ko naman yun. So I can leave you guys homework you can do while I can't meet up with you. So yun lang. Thank you for the question, Lance. Anyone else?
Sir, yung klase po ba natin, ano po ba tayo? Every Tuesday or Thursday po?
PTH tayo.
Okay, sir. Copy, sir. Thank you.
And si Sir Jacob explained that because it's not a lab class, because we don't do programming here, kaya normal yung schedule niya. So thank you for that. How do you like me to call you? Is Frank better? Or
Sige, sir. Okay lang po, Frank.
yan. It's a good question because some of you guys might have gotten used already to the 3-hour once a week classes. So those are used only for lab classes because IS has a lot of it. So you guys are getting a lot of it. I have Python this term and secure programming. So those are lab classes which I do only once a week. Thursday night and then Friday night. So yun lang. But for us, since this is project management, we are meeting twice a week. Ayun lang. Right. So thank you for the question, Frank. Anyone else? Okay. So hopefully you guys pick something up. If you want to review it later on, the PowerPoint is in Big Sky. As soon as the recording is ready, I'll transfer it to YouTube and provide the link. So if anyone wants to review it, you can review it. And with that being said, thank you everyone for joining me today in our first class. Hopefully it becomes much more exciting than this and I get to see you guys face to face next week. So yay to me kasi first na face to face ko yun in a long time for CSP. And that's it. Thank you everyone. Stay safe. That's our class for today. Enjoy the rest of your day. And I'll see you all again on Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you
Have
po,
a nice
sir.
day po.
And thank you. Ingat everyone. Thank you, Francesca. Thank you, Carlo.